Hello and welcome on the Barricades. This is a podcast produced by Eastern European journalists and academics, and this is your host, Maria Chernat, and with me, as usual, the co-host Boyan Stanislavski. Thank you for being here with us.
Hello there.
So, the migrant crisis in your country escalates. More than 12,000 soldiers and thousands of police officers are being deployed currently by the Polish authorities across the border with Belarus. They declared, the Polish authorities, that is, state of emergency across the border, and that prevents journalists and activists from reaching the area and report on this terrible migrant crisis. But there are activists and journalists that defy the Polish authorities and try to offer support to the migrants since these people are pushed back and forth by the Belarus and Polish authorities and basically forced to spend all their time and live in the woods that separates Poland from Belarus, that is. And one of these journalists is Ruth Kulkiewicz-Grokolska, and she's working for the Polish platform Strike, and she recently had the audacity to defy the Polish authorities to go to the border and see what's going on to these people. And she wrote an extensive piece for Strike that is a very interesting and very well documented piece of journalism, an article that is posted also on the Barricade, and it was translated into Romanian and Bulgarian. And she's going to discuss the recent situation, and the developments there at the Polish border and what's going on with the migrants and the Polish authorities. Thank you for being here with us, Ruth.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
So, first things first, I think in Romania, since nobody's talking, I told you at the beginning that I will play the role of the ignorant Romanian that is not very far from the truth because I know only what's being written in the press. And I would like you, if you want, to share basic information with us on recent developments regarding the migrant crisis.
Okay, so as we said at the beginning, it's getting worse and worse, I think, because there's more and more people coming. Now, basically, they are Iraqi Kurds. And I think the big issue is that the journalists are forbidden to cross the zone and to really see what's happening, because now we have only the propaganda, the news that the government is giving us, and some stuff, the videos from border guards. So it's really difficult to really know what's happening in there. I think on Monday started a really big migration, and for example, the government propaganda said that it will be they will try to came to Poland by force, but we find out in some Arabic and Kurdish media and migrants that the plan was to make a demonstration to show how big is the crisis, and they have no plan to force the border. But like most of people don't know it because there's a huge disinformation. Also in the Kurdish and Arabic news, because for example, I read the statement of one of the journalists. He was posting videos, live videos from the border, and he wrote down that people go, don't worry, on the Polish side there is waiting help and food, which is actually not true, and they're forcing people with this fake news. They're maybe giving people some hope, some totally fake hope, and it's really crazy because I didn't break the law when I was there, I was just outside the zone and in the villages nearby, and the situation is it's really bad. The Polish government is not talking to Belarus at all. No diplomatic talks are taking place. So it's really scary, and it's hard to know what's going on really.
Well, I think from what you're saying, one of the biggest problem here is disinformation. And while claiming that there are nation states such as Russia that amplify disinformation, the Polish authorities deny journalists access there. So, Boyan, from what you know, because I think it's very important, it's really important what we are doing here. I think we are among the very few media that got people there and try to discuss this in a more rational manner, not us versus them. So, what are the recent developments, and why do you think they want to keep journalists out?
Well, it's obvious why they want to keep journalists out. Well, the reference I could make is to the Vietnam War. Of course, I mean, the situation on the border is nothing like the Vietnam War, but the reference is important because, uh, to a large extent, the Vietnam War was lost because journalists were there and they were allowed to do their job. And while they were showing the horrendous inferno that was inflicted by the Americans on the Vietnamese soil, and all the deaths, all the violence, the destruction, the destitution, all of those things, then obviously it provoked a certain reaction on the part of the American people. And finally, certain processes took place, and the American troops had to be withdrawn in a very humiliating manner. So this is why the Polish authorities do not let any journalists there, because if the journalists would have actually been able to do their job, then we would see that the entire propaganda, the acrobatics on the part of the Polish government, and to a large extent on the part of the European Union, are just pure nonsense. I mean, to claim that the Polish border guards, the Polish military, the Polish police, the Polish military police, and all other uniformed services that were sent there are doing some kind of major job of defending the fatherland and defending the border and doing all those sacred things. This is a complete madness. I mean, those people are up against a group of maybe 4,000, maybe 5,000. Some reports say 10,000. I don't know. I mean, there's no way to confirm the exact number, but even let's assume it's 10,000. So what? I mean, those people are helpless, those people are armless, those people are defenseless. The only weapon that they might have is like a large stick picked up somewhere in the woods, or I don't know. I've seen one person with a shovel trying to remove the fences and stuff like that. And that was in the footage shown by the Polish border guard. I don't know, by the Polish Defense Ministry. So look, this is a huge humbug. I mean, this is an absolutely crazy and meaningless, baseless, pointless propaganda exercise, if we are, of course, to consider the conditions on the border. I mean, this makes no sense. And on top of everything, I heard yesterday, or the day before yesterday, that the Polish government is deploying tanks to the border, which is something absolutely insane. I mean, there is not a pinch of rational thinking to that. I don't know what they're going to do with those tanks. The only thing that they were able to do so far with this is to enrage Russia and to enrage Belarus, of course, but Russia, because Russia has deployed now as a response to the Polish government, NATO government, deploying a large and heavy armory to the border. They have deployed their two bombers there, 260, that were cruising around, over the Polish-Belarusian border over the last, I think, 48 or 72 hours or something like that. So, this, everything that the Polish government is doing, except for the morally impermissible treatment of all those people, it's also doing a very bad what it's making is making a very bad political choice with very bad, severe consequences for the Polish position, geopolitically, politically, from wherever you want to look at it. The Polish government is exercising idiotic and absolutely baseless and meaningless violence against a group of people who have no food, who are starving, who have very limited access to water, and all, let alone hygiene, medical care, and shelter, right? And for all the money that have been invested so far in keeping the those 15,000 or 12,000 troops out there, for all those money, we could have easily provided some kind of mobile units where people would be able to be received. Their asylum applications would could be received there. They would be able to take a shower. Their injuries would be treated, and any other problems could be addressed. And again, please, we're talking about a group of maybe four, maybe five, maybe, the most liberal figures, 10,000 people. And on the other side, we keep hearing about how this is a hybrid war and how this is an attempt to destabilize Europe and to destabilize the European Union and Poland. And I'm sorry, but if Poland and the European Union are so fragile that 4,000 people on the border could destabilize that, and that our response as Europeans, as the Polish, has to be 15,000 armed and masked people harassing those that have already been harassed by the conditions that they are in. This, for me, is morally and politically absolutely unacceptable.
Yes, I would say so, but I want to go to Ruth now, and I want to ask her what is her general opinion, and what prompted her to go there. I mean, weren't you afraid? Not by the migrants, of course, but the Polish authorities, because usually these people in uniform, and especially in a state of emergency, they have basically a white check for abuse and violence.
Um, um, how to say that? Yes, I was afraid of the Polish authorities and the police and the army, which is plenty in the area. But as I said, I thought I'm a journalist, so I just need to be there. But the first time I came there, I really feel something. It was there is something scary, like, in the air, like lots of police. It was the during whole my life, I never seen this amount of police. I have a lot of controls. They open my car, open the window. They were checking everything in the car. So I feel like terrified, and also I didn't know what to tell them, because somebody told me, don't tell them that you're a journalist, and I was like really really scared. Also, I went there alone. uh, I was going to go with the activists to the woods to find there some people to give them help. I was just a journalist, so I was like doing nothing, just looking at it. But it was really hard to reach them because of the forbidden zone, and I have to drive through the forest, and they were stopping me. The police and the border guards were stopping me and said, no way, you cannot cross, you have to go a different way, or better go home. So it was kind of scary. And I think, but the biggest impression made on me this meetings, when you meet people in the forest, sitting on the ground in the night. And it's absurd to meet people in these circumstances. It's absurd. It's There's no humanity, no, I don't know. For me it was freaking. This first meeting, I went to the forest. We were looking for the group of 5 men, this famous young strong men, which Europe is so scared of. And we were going about 2 hours through the woods, and it was crazy. It was really hard. We were going through the trees, and I was a little bit exhausted and scared, and also wet because there are lots of swamps in there. And finally we met them. They were sitting on the ground. They were dirty. They were sad, and I was like hopeless. my thought was, okay, guys, just stand up, let's go to have a dinner, we will show you where the bus is, but it's forbidden, yeah, because it will be, we can get charges as a human traffic. Like really something crazy is going on there. I did not cross the zone because of course it's forbidden, I can get the charges, but I think that, I don't know if I can say this, but I think we have to start cross the zone and really go there to do our jobs as a journalist or activist to help. Really, I think I can handle the charges. I don't know. You can just cut it off, but it's, some people compare the situation to World War II, and for example, the to the Polish history, like Shoah, like Holocaust, and it's, for me it's still not comparable. One is standing with a rifle. If you help the refugees, we will shoot you. No, there's no. It's still not the same situation. So I think we need a little bit more courage and just do our jobs and try to help and try to report. I don't know.
Yeah, that's very sad, and I think this is one of the very few situations where men are disadvantaged, because if you're a young man, there's a whole lot more, a lot of stigma, and a lot of labels just put on your forehead, and they are there to stay. You're a potential rapist, you're a potential criminal. But I want to ask you, do you think the women and children are treated the same? Because I saw there were discussions around the family that was found in the woods.
Uh, if they're treated the same way by the
Polish, yes.
Polish police and border guards, yes, I think yes. For example, they are putting like whole families to a big truck and with the kids, uh, and just put them into the forest. So they treat them the same way like men. There are many stories about how they hurt people. For example, a woman who was thrown over the fence and she lost her baby. So, yeah, there is no difference, I think.
Yeah,
Uh,
perhaps I'd like to add one thing here. Sorry for
Please,
interjecting,
please
but
do.
I just came across while Ruth was discussing was answering your question. I came across this thing. It's a report on the CNN's website, CNN out of all of them, where they bring up a case of one Syrian asylum seeker. And but let me just quote one paragraph here. One Syrian asylum seeker who recently arrived in Poland after his third attempt at crossing the border from Belarus told CNN that on arriving at the border, guards caught him and three others in his group. He was beaten up subsequently and suffered facial injuries, a broken nose, and bruised ribs. So that's the treatment that the migrants receive by the Polish border guards, by the police, by the military, and the military police, and whatever other services there. And this was reported by the CNN, okay, not RT America or RT Europe or whatever, not by Sputnik. It was reported in the CNN. So I would say that if CNN is already uh, compelled to produce such reports, then the situation is much more dire for sure than they describe. And that just speaks to the question of misinformation that you referred to in the beginning of the program, Maria. And by the way, I think it makes sense to point out that it's, I'm sorry, I mean it's well, I'm laughing because it's on one hand laughable, on the other hand it's scary. uh, but those people, they speak so much about misinformation and how how we should avoid misinformation because that's one of the weapons that the Lukashenko's regime, quote unquote, is using on us to persuade us to to brainwash us to do all kinds of evil things to our consciousness. And yet those people have just actually banned journalism. I mean, in this area, of course, they have banned journalism, and on the other hand, they are complaining about misinformation spreaded by Lukashenko. And now, if you're a journalist and if you want to do your job, then you have the two choices. One that was indicated by Ruth, that just go ahead, break the law, go to the zone, into the zone, make a report, go back, and publish it. Right? That's one thing you can do. But second thing that you can do is you can just apply for a journalistic visa to Belarus and just go and report from the other end, because there is no extraordinary sorry, not extraordinary, what is it called, emergency state on the Belarusian side. So
Would
and
you
there are
agree
many.
with that, Ruth? Because I
Sorry, I
thought
just want to I
you
just want
nod
to
your
finish my
head.
thought, is that
Okay.
there are many journalists reporting from there, and of course they are carefully selected. So now the situation is such that you have basically narratives which are favorable for Lukashenko, who is supposed to be this devil and the worst man in the world, and so on and so forth. uh, Basically they are available for the public opinion because no one's operating journalistically on the Polish side.
So would you say that's a feasible plan, or that Lukashenko would carefully select only the ones that would portray him in a positive light?
First of all, I did not break the law. I want to, but I did not.
Yeah.
I was really close to breaking the law and to entering the zone, but it didn't happen because the police just stopped me. But I was asking some my Belarusian friends if it's really possible, because it was my thought too, to get a visa and go to Belarus to enter there and see what's happening. But she told me that it's not a good idea, and it's impossible for foreign journalists. I don't know, maybe you have some different
I don't have any information. I only saw
I
journalists
have
reporting
this.
from there. So that's yeah, okay.
So
So like I
this
don't
is
want to
what you
dispute that.
said.
Yeah.
This is what you said, that maybe they're selected by Lukashenko to say what they have to say. But when I was asking my friend who escaped Belarus and she's now in Poland, she said it's no way, and she's totally told me not to do, because if you will go there as a journalist, they will find something for you and they will lock you down. I don't know. This is what I heard.
Yeah,
So I
could be.
decided for now not to go to Belarus and stay in Poland
Yeah, I think that might be especially difficult for Polish people to, Polish journalists to obtain, and I
these
think it could be
days.
dangerous for Polish journalists because, well, part of the whole endeavor is to actually, uh, take a revenge on Poland, right? So I guess if I were to advise anyone, then I would advise them as your friend against going to Belarus as a Polish journalist, but. I have no concrete and specific information. I only have superficial observations, and I saw people reporting, and that's it. But whether they were selected or whether they were allowed to do freely their job, I have no idea. So
Me too.
But
No idea.
how this experience that was quite intense changed your perspective, Ruth, on the whole situation? Did you go there with some ideas about what you were going to find, and that was completely changed about the reality on the ground?
Mm, Actually, I was surprised of my own reaction to things I saw, because, as I said before, meeting people in these circumstances is it was for me it was heartbreaking. I don't know how to which words I should use, but I think it was heartbreaking. Um, and and I really think that media should go there, and I have to go there again and again and to report what's going on, because this pushback procedure is very common, but we cannot see how they are really do it, because people are crossing the border. They're crossing from the Belarus to Poland, forced by Belarusian border guards. They make a big journey through the woods, and they go outside the zone, and this is the place where journalists can go and activists can help them. But the activists have lots, hundreds of help requests, and they can't go there. For example, Grupa Granica, this is a big human rights and activist organization. They yesterday they have a press conference, and they said that during from the beginning of the migrant crisis, they have about 3,000 of help requests, and during November they have nearly 1,000. And it's they are making a great job. They are giving help to certain people in these woods, but it's just it's a little piece. It's not solving the problem at all. Of course it really matters to give someone food, to give someone dry socks, to give someone new shoes, but we totally need right now a solution, because how long the situation will last. And
Exactly.
actually
Exactly.
I have no idea what to do, because
Oh, I
on the
have an
one.
idea.
Okay,
I have
please
an
Well,
go
idea.
for it.
Yeah. So
well,
I
just
just want to
wanted
say,
just a second, because
right.
I just wanted to ask you, because this is the thing here. How do you solve this? Because I saw from what you told me and from what I read that the Polish politicians, left and right, and left unfortunately, are perfect in stating the obvious. Lukashenko is a terrible person, but besides stating the obvious, how are we going to deal with the situation created by this person? And how is this stating the obvious going to help in a situation like this? How is
Mm.
this virtue signaling saying, oh, I am with the European Union and I uphold the European values and Lukashenko is a terrible person? Okay, so what's next?
Right. I think this is a very good question, really, because the solution to that crisis, well, apart from what I suggested already, I mean, if the Polish authorities had a pinch of brain in their heads, then they would have actually handled it out in a completely different manner. They would have welcomed those people, regardless of whether they are 4 or 5 or 10 or 20 or even 40,000. Okay. They would have just received them, they would have helped them, and they would have leveraged they would have leveraged Germany or the German government and other Western European governments, demanding solutions in terms of, I don't know, locating or relocating those migrants, or whatever. Like you can think of any sort of plan, right? But in general, for Poland and for the asylum or migration capacity, they pose no threat or any kind of, I would say, even challenge, because they don't want to stay in Poland. No one wants to stay in Poland. Okay, they want to go. They
You
want to go to. Maybe some of them do want. I don't know, but majority of them want to go to Germany or to the Netherlands or to the countries where the migrant communities are larger and where they will feel safer and where they will feel much more welcomed. Okay, at least that's what they think. Now, whether that would be the case is another story. Well, since we already haven't done this, and we decided, I mean, the Polish government decided that they're not going to be letting those people in, and they're going to keep them there on the border, and that they're going to defend the border, and so on and so forth. Then, one thing that should be done in order to finally stabilize at least the situation, and create some room for some discussions or for some action, for some deliberations on what to do, is someone in Poland should have picked up the phone and called Lukashenko. And they should have perhaps arranged for not necessarily an official, but some kind of secret, well, not secret, but some kind of unofficial meeting, okay, where someone would go to Lukashenko and would just explain, look, we know you're angry with us. We understand it. We cannot handle this. Okay, I mean, this pressure is far too much for us. So
It's not
here are
gonna
some
happen.
yeah, of course it's not
It's
going to
not.
happen. But yeah, like, here are some presents. Let's make it. Let's cut a deal, right? Of course it's not going to happen. Why is it not going to happen? Because the Polish authorities, they, first of all, they despise Lukashenko, and they despise Belarus, same as they despise Russia, and they look down on them, and it's just they perceive themselves as someone too special to speak to those barbarians, okay, like Lukashenko or Putin or something like that. That's reason number one. And reason number two is we have had a continuous leak of emails, okay, from a guy named Michał Dworczyk, who is one of the most important, maybe even the most important advisor of the Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki. And in the leak from this week, we learned that the Law and Justice and the Polish government refers to the migrant crisis as, and I quote, political gold. Why is it political gold? Because it gives them the opportunity to ramp up all kinds of emotional disbalancing of society mechanisms, okay, and to ramp up all kinds of propaganda and beat the drum of racism, war, and all those pathologies, at the expense, of course, of making any kind of real politics. And I have been repeating that for, my mouth hurt from repeating this. Since 2015, we have hardly had any substantial politics in the Polish politics. What we have are all kinds of propaganda acrobatics and attempts to disbalance the society, to exploit it emotionally, and to disbalance it psychologically. To a large extent, both of those attempts are successful. And this, what we see right now, is yet another evidence, in my opinion, of this, because the majority of the Polish society keeps supporting the idiotic policies of the Polish government, regardless of the fact that they are absolutely, utterly irrational and hurtful and contradict the Polish interests, however you want to look at them.
Yeah, would you want to comment on that, Ruth? Because I think it's terrible what's going on in a way that basically this is a crisis that, I mean, we have a cynical character that is Lukashenko that's using the migrants, but hey, the Polish authorities are no less, because this is a perfect opportunity now for them to portray themselves as these heroes defending the sacred land of Poland from the migrants. And yeah.
Uh, you are both right, of course, but there is, for me, one more thing, because Poland is doing a European Union policy, and European Union is clapping hands and it's saying, well done, good job, thank you, defenders. And this is it and I saw it. And for me right now, European Union is some kind of empty quotes. It's empty. There's no humanity. Look at the same situation is going in Greece. And for example, I saw it. I remember it very well. When I was in Hajnówka first time, I got the message from the activists, and it was 6 o'clock in the evening. And I got some dramatic message that join us on the intervention. There are little kids. One kid is dying, and it was like, really hard experience. And at the same time, when the little children are freezing in the forest, they started a huge meeting with Donald Tusk. It was a meeting about pro-European Union, to embrace the values, to embrace the society, the human rights. And at the same time, when I was driving to the woods to report what's happening there, they are talking about humanity. They are talking about the human rights. They are waving the European Union's flags. And I was like, I'm sorry, but it was so this one thing is what Polish government is doing, but it's the European Union's will. I think 2 weeks ago, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I think, of Germany, wrote a letter to Minister Błaszczak, I think, that and basically he said, Germany said to Poland, well done, good job. We advise you to use Frontex, and we advise you to make the controls on the Polish and German borders, and we will support you in it. So, what we are talking about,
Mm.
because it's European Union's politic.
Well, for the last part of our show, because we are approaching the end, I want you. It was very nice talking to you. It was quite an honor to find out for Polish journalists with such nuanced ability and capacity of analyzing events, and especially you, Ruth, that had the guts to go there and actually report on the situation. So, what is your advice for the other Polish journalists, since we are in this situation where we are supposed to embrace the European values, and everybody says yes to the European values, and yet there is so little critical thinking on, this double discourse, supporting the European values and at the same time treating those people at the border insanely cruel. So what would be your message? I would like to hear from you.
My message to journalists: just to go there, just to go there as many times as it's needed, and report and even break the law. I don't know, but I think it's necessary. I think it's absolutely necessary to go there and to report and just do our jobs, because something really bad is going on. This is That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And what would you recommend, Boyan?
Well, the worst thing in the world is always the unsolicited advice, I guess. But yeah, well, what I would recommend is to approach the whole thing in the most rational possible manner, because we've had enough hype, we've had enough emotions, and we've had enough uh, lack of balance. I think it's really time to, apart from, of course, exposing the brutal nature of the reaction of the Polish government, I really think we should also try and convey the message that what the Polish government is doing politically is an extremely bad deal. And we're all going to pay for it, except for those people who are already paying, dying there in the woods out of, lack of food because they're freezing and so on and so forth. So yeah, my advice would be definitely to rationally approach the case and to create create conditions for us to do that. But by that I'm trying to say that yeah, I mean, Ruth is right. We just have to go there, and we have to make as many reports as possible, and we have to uh, confront this idiotic decision, okay, of introducing, of outlawing journalism from where journalism should be, because this is a humanitarian crisis that should be reported on, and there's no reason whatsoever not to report on that, neither moral nor political, let alone, I don't know, philosophical. So yeah, I definitely agree with Ruth.
So it seems like she had some technical problems and we lost her. But luckily, we had the chance to discuss the situation and analyze what happened there. And her excellent report, her brilliant piece on the migrant crisis in Poland. I hope you enjoyed our show. We try to stay balanced and offer rational analysis of the events. Be our supporters, please. Go to our Patreon page, Patreon/, the barricade, and become our supporters because we rely on you. Thank you so much for watching. Stay healthy, keep fighting, and we'll see you all in our next episode.
Thank you.